Supergirl is here, guys. Aren't you excited? Aren't you livid that the next DCU project is finally here? Look, it's Millie Alcock as Supergirl. She's not a hero at all, is she? She's just another deconstruction of a superhero people kind of like because Hollywood really can't help themselves, can they? It's going to be hard to talk about this because of the copyrights of many interviews and whatnot, so if you don't mind, I'll be having footage from games like Injustice 2 in this video as well, because YouTube's going to YouTube. But Supergirl, in case you haven't figured it out yet, is probably going to bomb and bomb hard. As seen here, Supergirl's box office predictions are all over the place. Some websites say the movie should do well, others say that it's going to be another The Marvels level flop. But the general idea here is Supergirl is likely going to be a disaster for DC and Warner Bros. Once it's all said and done. As Forbes said it here, buzz is fading fast. I like to think that the buzz for Supergirl was never really there to begin with. And from the very first trailer alone, it looked like a Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff with a very small actress playing the so-called superhero character I'm supposed to believe is awesome and amazing. But I've seen many also relate Millie Alcock to another alumni of being a hater of fans and doomer of projects. That being, oh boy, Rachel Zegler. Yep, it's her again. As we all know, Rachel Zegler ruined Snow White. That movie bombed harder than Hans at the end of Die Hard. It was a terrible film, and Rachel Zegler's push for social justice and nonsense feminism antics led to that movie imploding at the box office. It was rather impressive of her to do that though, because Snow White as a movie should have been an easy billion-dollar slam dunk, but it wasn't. It's all really because Hollywood keeps hiring these insufferable people to lead their movies. And anytime these actors open their mouths, they reveal what they truly think about the people out here. They don't like them, and they don't really see them as equals. In Millie Alcock's case, she infamously is seen here from comicbooknews.com, allegedly mocked Christians of all things when it came to criticism against Supergirl as a movie. As seen here, Millie, while speaking to Variety, made fun of people who criticized her movie, claiming that some of them were Christians, and she singled them out specifically to get attacked. Wow, really brave of you to do that, Millie, going after Christians in 2026? Wonder why you never go after any of the other religious groups out there. We know why, but you're never going to say it. The fact that you had posts like this confirming that she was making fun of Christians, which the majority of the United States is, by the way, is probably not a good idea if you want your movie to get a sequel. However, Peter Safran, that's one of the heads of the DCU, he's this guy in this photo here having his arms around James Gunn at the Superman premiere, he actually believes that Millie Alcock was justified in saying what she said about the fans. As Comic Book News said it here, Peter Safran, one of the heads of DC, flat out said that Millie Alcock was handling the backlash beautifully, apparently, and she should just be true to herself. But you see, Pete, that's kind of the problem, isn't it? Millie being true to herself in Hollywood terms usually just means talking down to those they think that they're superior to. In this case, all of us, pretty much, because we're not in Hollywood. It's really just like a recipe for disaster at this point. And the fact this keeps on happening, no less, it's no surprise why people are comparing Millie to Rachel Zegler. Because at this point, these sorts of actresses are just birds of the same feather. They're all idiots. Like, seriously, dude, if your job is to be an actor and promote your movie that is hundreds of millions of dollars in the red when it releases, you should be doing everything in your power to ensure that it crosses the finish line and actually does well so you still have a career. Because your entire existence, career, whatever, within Hollywood hinges on your movie that you're the lead of doing well. Yet Millie, like Zegler, doesn't seem to either care, or maybe they're just so dumb and delusional, they just maybe don't even understand how poorly their public reception is going to be when they go out and attack people like this. It's really weird how this tends to happen almost always with female-led films. It's like they think that they're owed something from the rest of us. But we don't need to support you. Like, you know that, right? Nobody has to see Supergirl. The movie has already been confirmed to not even have a post-credit scene, which is kind of bizarre considering studios have used that excuse to make people want to watch these movies day one just to see those minute-long teases so they can discuss it online. Which tells me that nobody has faith in this movie, even the people who made it. You know it's cooked when websites back in May this year, as seen here, were already saying that the film's trajectory was going nowhere but down into the pavement upon release. The movie's probably going to flop, and honestly, I'm not really surprised. You can also probably tell how nonchalant I am about all of this. Because honestly, I don't feel any particular way about Supergirl or this Millie Alcock actor girl either. I've seen this sort of foolishness before. I know how this ends. I can already bet once this movie's first weekend passes, you're going to see all the usual suspects crying and running damage control articles saying, no guys, come on, this movie did well. No, stop looking at the box office. Okay, listen to me, it did good. How good? Well, it was good for progress, but not really, right? The only thing Supergirl is progressing is how far back movies like this set for future female-led superhero movies. Snow White was a disaster because Rachel Zegler believed that she was better than everybody. Now she's effectively cooked and blacklisted by Disney, and for good reason. And honestly, the more I see of this Supergirl, or really James Gunn's DCU as a whole, the more I kind of think this whole operation needs to be shut down for good, and everyone in power there just needs to find new jobs. Because James Gunn's DCU is a disaster. His version of Task Force X flopped, Blue Beetle flopped, which is apparently a part of the DCU somehow. The Flash, which James Gunn said was his favorite superhero movie, flopped. Creature Commandos came and went, no one cares about it. Peacemaker Season 2 was a disaster. Superman did okay, but not amazing, and Supergirl's another certified flop from James Gunn again. I think the only DC project James Gunn helmed that did somewhat okay was Peacemaker Season 1. But when you objectively look at what James Gunn has put his name on or pushed these days, the answer is kind of obvious. This guy's version of the DC Comics universe is not working. I mean, for God's sake, Supergirl is seen in the trailer wearing a trench coat with headphones even. Like, are we really just trying to Peter Quill Guardians of the Galaxy this thing into existence now? And using that dog Crypto again as a marketing tool is just getting tiring. James Gunn infamously said that he couldn't even crack Superman until he looked at it from the perspective of Crypto the dog. It's like he doesn't know or understand Superman or characters like that on a fundamental level. Instead, he just puts a dog in front of these boring characters and goes, forget you're watching Superman or Supergirl, just look at the dog. Come on already, buy a ticket please. My job depends on this. Why aren't you seeing Supergirl opening night? Don't you care about owning the chuds? But why would I ever support a film like this? Your star hates me and people like me. She flat out made fun of Christians, and by the way, I'm a Christian. I don't support people who attack me because, like, when it even comes to video games, right? These things do not exist without people like me buying them. It's the ultimate catch. No matter what these morons do, we the fans really decide if these things continue to exist or not. James Gunn can do whatever he wants. All he's done is tarnish DC and make that universe look like a one-trick pony. Honestly, at first I thought maybe James Gunn could make a rival to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but looking at what he's done so far, it's very clear the guy kind of just makes the same movie over and over again. And don't get me wrong, okay? Guardians of the Galaxy is a great movie, but Guardians 2 and 3 are not nearly as good. Superman as a film looks like one of those commercials that you've seen on TV for like some insurance lawyer when you get into an accident. Like those guys who say, have you or someone you love been in an accident? You may be entitled to compensation. Call today. That's literally what Superman looks like to me. It's like this weird parody of what Superman's supposed to be aesthetic-wise. And Supergirl from the get-go, it just looks like Guardians of the Galaxy with Supergirl stepping in for like Star-Lord. But at least in Guardians' case, Chris Pratt doesn't hate Christian people, well, since he is one, and understands that you never attack the audience. Millie Alcock is not a big enough star, just like Rachel Zegler, yet these two are acting like they're promised to the money in your wallet or something to go see these things. I don't have to watch anything this Millie girl does, and I assure you I will be fine, right? Okay? Because Millie, she was decent enough in House of the Dragon, I guess, but I am still puzzled as to how this was the right girl for the job for Supergirl of all things. Comic Book News is seen here confirmed also that Supergirl has gone up in interest point-wise, but for all the wrong reasons. They then confirm as seen here that while interest has gone up, the actual sales of the tickets has not. So that kind of confirms what I already suspected about Supergirl. It's a movie made to be dunked on social media. That's really all it's going to be in the end. It's another Snow White box office bomb that these studios spend millions making, but nobody's going to pay money to watch it. More people are going to watch reviews of Supergirl online and spoiler talks about it than actually watching it themselves. And I don't blame them. Supergirl, if I had to categorize it as a movie, I would call these sorts of movies punching bag films, I guess. They kind of just exist to be made fun of because they're not redeemable and they start annoying people. Like you being here watching this kind of video right now proves it, you know? You probably have zero interest in watching this at all. I don't blame you. I don't want to see it either. But making fun of it and pointing out how stupid it all is, yeah, that's entertaining at least. These sorts of movies that just exist to be picked apart, honestly, and have their bones used as toothpicks before it's just thrown in the never-ending pile of really bad Hollywood slop number 5,000 movie that nobody cared to see again. So that point interest in Supergirl is all that is. It's interest. Yeah, interest in how bad it is, as Comic Book News says here. Analysts are hovering around the 50 million opening box office weekend for the film, and that's at its high end. And Supergirl, by the way, was 170 million to produce, not including marketing. And since every movie ever splits their box office with movie theaters and the like, obviously, it usually means that if a movie is to break even, it actually needs to make about double its budget and then some, meaning Supergirl needs to make somewhere in the 400 to 500 million range before any profits are seen from it. And honestly, I just don't see that happening whatsoever here. There's no way this is going to spawn a sequel. At best, Supergirl will come and go like a fart in the wind, and you might see this character show up in Man of Tomorrow at best. But she's probably never going to get her own sequel movie if these box office projections are to be believed. But that's the thing, right? Did it really have to be this way? Not really, but this push for female heroes, look, I get it, but the key here is you got to ensure that these movies, that they aren't being led by insufferable actresses who hate everybody, which they always seem to be, weirdly enough. The current claim is that Supergirl might do better than Mortal Kombat 2, Masters of the Universe, and The Mandalorian movie, but all three of those films I just mentioned flopped pretty badly, so saying that your flop is going to do better than the other flops isn't exactly the win that you think it is. As Cosmic Book News stated here, Deadline has already lowered their projections for the film to be somewhere in the $39 million range. The more dire revelation was this there, where it was confirmed by Deadline that DC and Warner have actually spent somewhere near $100 million on top of the film's budget just to promote it, and that they've partnered with all kinds of brands like KFC to Samsung, American Airlines, and more to promote this Supergirl movie. Yet none of this is apparently working in their favor. Now that I know that, actually, it means that this movie likely needs now more to make than $500 million plus to break even, which it's not going to do. Like, look here, you can get Supergirl figurines from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Don't you want these? Please tell us you want these. Come on already. We spent $100 million on this slop. Come on, go buy some KFC. Can you just go there and get your little annoying Millie Alcock figurine already? You have to buy this or we're gonna go under. Don't you want James Gunn to keep making Guardians of the Supergirl slot movies for the next 30 years? Stop being a culture warrior and buy the fried chicken already. And make sure to use that American Airlines and all the other promos. Oh, what's that? You don't want to see it because the main star is insufferable? Have you considered that maybe you are a bigot? How dare you not want to watch a female-led superhero film? You're just a misogynist, aren't you, right? But look, you can call us all you want. It doesn't matter. The only DC movie I want to see in theaters is the Batman Part 2. Maybe Clayface, if it ends up being good. I never cared for Supergirl, because to me, she's just another boring gender-swap superhero of another legacy character, and it's kind of crazy how the current meta of movies today tells you everything. Like, look at this. Obsession was made for $750K, and it's making hundreds of millions of dollars. Supergirl is absolutely going to lose money. Actually, Obsession is a great example, as the director of that film, Curry Barker, recently said, as IGN reported here, that Gen Z is just tired of slob movies, but they will show up for good movies, and he's right, as Curry Barker said further as well. The lesson is that Gen Z will show up to an original film. Maybe that's all that needs to be said, that we will show up to a film. I don't think it's about IP necessarily. You know what? It's not even about being original or not being original. I think we're all really hungry for good stories, and we're kind of, and I can only speak for myself, a little tired of films that feel rushed or overly produced. Yeah, he's talking about slop like Supergirl, although not outright saying it, but I get what he's saying because he's right. I saw Obsession in theaters. I liked it. I saw Backrooms in theaters. I liked that one too. I also saw the Michael Jackson biopic. Yeah, I enjoyed it also. The only other movies I plan on seeing in theaters this year, Spider-Man, obviously, Avengers, because I guess I have to, and I want to see Werewolf from Robert Eggers, and that's about it really. Anything else I can wait for streaming or to rent at best. In Supergirl's case, you couldn't pay me to watch that slop for even $5. Like, have you even seen the villain Krem that's in Supergirl? This is him on screen here compared to his comic book version. Like, what the actual hell is that design? Like, talk about over-designing your villain, DC. He looks awful, and like, not in a good way. This Krem guy looks like he would fit right in as a random extra in the background of a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and no one would question it. One of my friends even, Sydney Watson, was also getting attacked aplenty online for her Supergirl video as seen here. And this is not even the half of it. There are even women online calling Sydney a pick-me girl and all other kinds of things I can't see on YouTube. But the reality is that Sydney is sick of Supergirl for the same reason that we all are, right? It's boring. And let's be real, the people crying about content creators making fun of Supergirl are not exactly going to save this movie anyways. These people never support anything besides liking things on Twitter. They never show up for anything in meaningful ways. Every single time they champion something, 9 times out of 10 it flops because these people never vote with their wallets. If you really wanted to show up the chuds, you would go and buy a ticket and see Supergirl like 10 times. You'd get all your family, your friends, even your dog to go see it with you. But they're not going to do that, will they? Of course not. These people, they just pretend to like things and want others to support it instead, which means all they're going to end up doing is proving Sydney Watson and others right. That these movies are made for no one but a very small demographic at best. It's why when I say it's Rachel Zegler Snow White all over again, I mean it because it is. Honestly, at this point, it's impossible to ignore the patterns, right? The fans are wrong, the audience is toxic, and any criticism isn't legitimate if it's not suddenly blatantly positive. And they'll say the consumers simply don't understand what they're looking at. No, they're too low IQ after all. Right, of course we are. This is why the backlash is nuclear. Why this is going to be another Snow White. Not because Supergirl and Snow White are exactly the same, but the problem here is the attitude and the mindset behind these films. And Hollywood just keeps making the same mistake, yet they are always shocked when audiences don't show up for these things. One of the more fascinating things about Snow White, for me actually, is Hollywood's complete inability to understand why audiences were frustrated about that movie in the first place, right? And instead of listening to that criticism, many people inside the industry immediately defaulted to a familiar explanation like always, right? That the fans and the audience, they are the real problem. And that's just become the default of corporate response to failure these days. Rather than asking why longtime supporters have become increasingly skeptical about these movies, studios often choose to just question the legitimacy of the criticism itself, and it never works for them. Maybe it's done this way so the executives like a James Gunn can protect themselves from having to admit that they may have misread the audience for the 6th time in a row. But unfortunately for them, consumers and fans, they don't care about their excuses. All we care is that the movie is good and that it honors what we love. And if the movie isn't good or looks appealing, which in Supergirl's case it looks like neither, nobody's going to show up for it. It's not our fault. The pathetic and remarkable part about Supergirl is that DC should have had every advantage here, right? They had this actor girl coming off the huge success of House of the Dragon. They tried to base it off a Supergirl comic book that apparently people like, well, depending on who you ask, I guess. And on paper, I guess maybe it should have worked, but then, like always, those come the interviews from the people that are involved, and they can never get out of their own way. And that alienation is why this keeps happening. They never learn their lessons. And all this leads to is social media arguments, like it is against Sydney Watson, like I showed. An endless discourse, right? And the focus, like always, that shifts away from the movie itself again. Wow. Doesn't that sound familiar to you? Oh, right, it's Snow White again. Of course, we've all seen this before. And the media is to blame for this, because all they do is amplify the most extreme parts these actors say into a microphone for everybody to hear. So when that disconnect happens, the people involved can act shocked, like, oh my god, nobody likes Supergirl. But how? It must be those pesky misogynists again. But the movie isn't even made for the so-called, I guess, chud crowd. So how can this be their fault if the movie wasn't even made for them from conception? Like, this response has become so predictable, you can practically automate it at this point. And Supergirl, like Snow White and others, it's the same cycle that starts, then something else important always happens next. The conversation stops being about whether the movie looks good. Instead, it becomes about whether the audience is allowed to criticize it instead. Because fans of these things, they don't want to feel like they're entering an argument every time they go to buy a ticket to something, right? They want entertainment. They don't want activism. They don't want lectures. They don't even want the culture war battlefields. All they want is entertainment. Why is that so hard to make these days? I think in general, people are just kind of exhausted. They're tired of every franchise they like becoming a political battleground. And I really don't blame any of them for that, because it's not their fault. We're tired of being accused of bad motives simply because we don't like a trailer. Like, we're tired of corporations constantly acting as though customer dissatisfaction is some kind of moral failing that we all caused. The audience is exhausted, man, and Hollywood keeps interpreting that exhaustion as hostility, which is a massive mistake that they keep on doing, because many of these people, they aren't even angry anymore. They're just indifferent. They simply stopped caring. And indifference is infinitely more dangerous than outrage. At least outraged people are still going to pay attention to your thing. Indifferent people have already left the building. You lost them forever, Hollywood. Finally, if I had to guess who Supergirl was made for, it feels like a film that was made for what I can only call the phantom audience. Because for years, studios have convinced themselves that there are these vast, untapped demographics, I guess, just waiting to embrace these franchises, if only the existing fan base can be pushed aside or something. I guess that theory sounds good to these executives in a boardroom, or if you're an idiot, but, expand the audience. Let's modernize the brand. We gotta reposition the franchise, but there's always a problem there, right? That audience that they're looking for. It doesn't materialize, it doesn't exist, at least not in the numbers required to replace the people who were already there and actually willing to give these things a chance. We've seen it happen repeatedly, right? The loyal fans leave, like in Star Wars' case, the new audience never really arrives, and the franchise just gets stuck in the middle. What did I just describe, right? Was it Star Wars? Supergirl? Doctor Who, maybe? It's all of them and then some, right? I think the real issue is that Hollywood fundamentally just misunderstands these fandoms. They don't, like, fans aren't just customers, okay? They are the caretakers of these franchises. They're the evangelists, or however you want to say it, who are hardcore into these things. They are the kinds of people that keep these things alive. They are the ones buying your KFC bucket merchandise or the collector's editions. They're the ones who are going to buy tickets multiple times to see your movies. They are also, and this is key, the sort of people who will introduce these characters and franchises to the next generation through their kids, the nieces, the nephews, whatever. They are the foundation of everything. Yet films like a Supergirl or this Millie Alcock chick, they're just treating these people like they're obstacles that are meant to be kicked over instead of embracing them. Like they're outdated demographics that don't matter, as if they're just groups that need to be managed or something instead of being appreciated and cultivated. Like imagine running any other business this way. Imagine telling your most loyal customers that their opinions are now irrelevant, and then you just insult the people that were most likely to buy your product. It would be considered corporate malpractice if you did that. But in Hollywood, that's somehow become normal to these people to do, and that's why I don't think this conversation is really even about Supergirl. Supergirl just happens to be the latest example of this. Like the real issue is the widening disconnect between entertainment corporations and the audiences that they depend on, because it just keeps happening. Studios keep saying we need representation. All anyone actually cares about is whether the movie is good or not whether it advances a social goal or if it satisfies an executive's vision for the future, or even that if it generates positive headlines. All that matters is it a good movie? That's really what it all comes down to. The lesson from Snow White should have been obvious. You cannot shame audiences into like supporting your product. You cannot lecture consumers into being enthusiastic. You can't replace passion with messaging, even though it keeps happening. And you certainly cannot build these successful franchises by just treating your most loyal supporters as adversaries all the time. Yet here we are again, guys. Good Lord, how many times does this need to happen? But because of Hollywood, they keep forgetting the most basic rule of entertainment, that this will keep happening because they don't want to change. The audience is not your enemy. The audience is the reason that you're here at all. And with Supergirl or whatever, it's just the latest example that Hollywood clearly has learned nothing from Snow White or anything like that. Oh well, I guess. I mean, enjoy your box office bomb, James Gunn. Maybe it'll be your, 7th or 8th times a charm before you see success in your DCU, maybe? Like, how much longer until this whole thing gets rebooted? But like, I guess who cares, right? It wasn't made for us anyways, was it? But thanks for being here. Let me know what you think as always. Subscribe if you'd like to. And yeah, something different from me, I know. Should I do more? Let me know. Have a great day, guys. And in Supergirl's case, good luck, I guess. You're gonna need it.